And welcome to another edition of the Thoroughbred Daily News Writers Room podcast. My name is Bill Finley. I'm a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News and the president of the Book 'em Dano fan club.
In mourning right now, although he ran a hell of a race. We'll talk about that. I'm Randy Moss with NBC Sports, surrounded by stacks of charts and past performances and papers and books, and as I'm trying to get ready in desperation for the Breeders' Cup.
Zoe Cadman here with First Racing. I just want to know, do you take 3 suitcases with you, Randy, for all your books? And just do you need a porter when you check in to your hotel at Del Mar?
Back in the day, Zoe, I had these giant Home Depot plastic bins that would go in the network TV truck.
Seriously?
And I had just loaded. I mean, they were like 200 pounds a piece. It took 2 guys to carry these bins out, and I had 3 or 4 of them everywhere I went. But now, thankfully, there's been inventions like the iPad, and it makes life a lot easier. Although I've still got all these papers, it's transferring them from paper to the iPad now that becomes the problem. But I'm not going to get into
old school. You're old school. You're still going to have all your papers.
Oh yeah. But not bins and bins and bins of old blood horses and no, not anymore.
All right, can we move on and talk about horse racing here, if you don't mind, guys?
Yes.
Okay. These weeks in and around the Breeders' Cup are very slow news weeks generally. Not a lot of things happen on the racetrack that are worth noting, but there was a race Saturday that I think everybody should be paying a lot of attention to. It's a fascinating story. Rated by Merit, is owned by Vinny Viola, and won the second of the third leg in the Florida Stallion Series. He's going to win the next leg. He's undefeated, but his breeding. Here, Viola is the guy who goes to the sales, thinks nothing of spending $9 million on horses. The sire is a $2,500 sire, and they bought the dam at Keeneland November for $19,000. And look how he came up with his best horse. And Randy, you can comment on this too. He is now officially the fastest 2-year-old of 2024, as he got a 99 for that race at Gulfstream. Is he for real, or are we just getting too excited about him because he's beating up on bad company?
Oh, I think he's totally for real. He got a 92 buyer when he broke his maiden at Gulfstream. That's when he first burst onto the radar of horse players around the country and racing fans. And he won that by a pole, and then he won the Dr. Fager by 6+ lengths with the 93 buyer, and then he comes back with the 99. And the horse that he's been running against in his last 2 starts, a horse by the name of Neo Equus, trained by Safi Joseph, is a inexpensive but a pretty darn good horse himself. So rated by Merit, he's not only a great story because of his background and his pedigree and things like that, but he's a very fast horse.
Yeah, we're not getting ahead of ourselves whatsoever. I mean, a 99 by a speed figure is good enough in any books. I don't care if he's just running against Florida breds down there. And it's really a tribute towards Vinny Viola's breeding program, Monique Delk, who oversees it, for the late, great Jimmy Krupe. This is a team effort, and it's just great to see it flourishing down there in Florida, because Jimmy Krupe was just an amazing man. If you ever got to meet him, you were truly blessed. And that Monique, who was by his side every step of the way, has stepped into that role and done such a good job. Battalion Runner was around when Always Dreaming was around, but Always Dreaming kind of took some of his thunder. I believe he has 30 foals of racing age from a very small book. He stands privately at Ocala Stud, just 17 starters. So this is by far, obviously, his best horse to date, but just kudos to them down there in Florida.
It's been an opinion for both of you. Should he be running in the Breeders' Cup, or do you think they're doing the right thing by waiting till next year to go against Open Company?
I think they're doing the right thing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and Zoe got into a lot of the background on this horse. I mean, he's apparently sort of like a personal favorite of Vinny Viola and his wife, Teresa. So it's as much emotional as anything else. We talk about speed figures and rated by Merit. When Battalion Runner broke his maiden at Gulfstream Park on New Year's Eve of 2016, he got a buyer speed figure of 98. Then he came back and he won an allowance race. Then they entered him actually in the Florida Derby as well as Always Dreaming, who was co-owned by Vinny Viola, as an insurance policy, just in case Always Dreaming was injured or got sick and couldn't make the Florida Derby. Always Dreaming went on to win the Florida Derby. So they scratched Battalion Runner, rerouted him to the Wood Memorial, where he was second to Irish Warcry and finished in front of Cloud Computing, who went on to win the Preakness. Then the wheels kind of came off Battalion Runner. He had a series of ailments. They finally retired him in September of his 3-year-old year. And Viola decided, I'm going to make this horse a stud. I like this horse. Sent him to Ocala. He hasn't been bred to many mares, but this is a nice horse.
Bill, Bill, did you see what he did? I was halfway down the rabbit hole, and Randy just came up behind me, and he just ran me over and just took off. I was in that hole. I was in the rabbit hole. Do you see that?
Well, I can go farther down. The damn banner waving. He traces back to Up the Flagpole, who was one of the best broodmares of the late 20th century. But I could go deeper. But I pulled up, Zoe. I pulled up.
All right. Saving your best stuff for the NBC broadcast. So a really good guy and a good jockey, Rajiv Murrah, came back and rode Sunday at Gulfstream. It was his first ride in 2.5 years. And people may not remember him because he's sort of out of sight, out of mind. He was never a top jockey in New York, but he was in the top 6 or 7. And, he was somebody who won a lot of races. It's great to see him back, a very nice guy. And I texted him because I thought he must have got hurt. And it says, "Hi, Bill. Nice to hear from you. I stepped away to diversify myself outside of horse racing. I co-founded Road Jockey LLC, which is a tech development company and also the franchisor of the Road Jockey e-commerce marketplace. RJ LLC clients include Metastride, Horse Owners World, and Courier Driva Limited. There's a misconception that was due to injury. Let me know if you want to talk about it." So he was not injured. He just decided to do something else. And, but, I guess Zoe and you obviously are the best to talk to about that. Does that bug take a hard time to go away? When you think, geez, maybe I'd give this one more try.
Yeah, I guess it does. And he's either got a baby that just arrived or one that's imminently coming along. I know he already has one child already with his wife. And I've got to be perfectly honest. I don't get it. He was very good on the telecast with Fox this summer. I know he wants to be in Florida full time. He's got a house down there. But he's obviously a smart guy. He's got a bright future beyond horse racing. And at the end of the day, it's goddamn dangerous out there. You got a baby that's just arriving and you have an opportunity to have a safe life sitting at the desk. I don't get it. I wish him the best of luck on his quest to 2000. But part of me is like, why? It's such a dangerous game that you're playing. And yes, I do get the bug and everything else that goes with it. But he's a smart guy that has plenty of opportunities to do other things. And it's not like he's 25. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. I wish you all the best luck in the world, Rajiv. I really do.
Yeah, and he's not far away to get 1939. I totally, so I appreciate your honesty on that. It was a very good answer. And, not having ever ridden a horse, obviously, I can't feel what it's like compared to you, but I agree. I remember Jerry Bailey would tell me, I was talking about back when he was still just retired. He said, I was Roger Clemens, steroided out of his mind, was coming back every year and winning 20 games and everything. And I said, Jerry, why would you ever quit? Why don't you do what Clemens does? He's still throwing 100 miles an hour at 42 years old. He says, because when he goes home at the end of the day, there's no chance it's going to be in an ambulance. And for me, there is that chance, and I'm not going to take it anymore. So,
yeah. But Jerry was 48, 49 years old, something like that, when he decided to retire. I think the 300-pound gorilla in the room here. And look, I love Rajiv. He's one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. Yep. He was when he was riding at his very best and winning a lot of races. You could tell by talking to him, he was one of the more intelligent guys in the jockey room. He's showing that now with his success in the business world in the Caribbean. But when he stepped away, it's not like, he was in demand to ride all these Grade 1 stakes winners in New York. His career had kind of taken a bit of a nosedive. So it was easier, I think, for him to make the decision at that point to step away than if he was making all these millions of dollars a year riding. So I think that's part of the story as well, but it's nice to see him back. If that's what he wants to do.
Well, certainly seems like that is what he wants to do, and I wish him well. And let's hope that he wins a lot of races and stays safe. That's the story of Rajiv Marat.
I want to remind you that the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. Now listen up, the catalogue for the inaugural Keeneland Champion Sale to be held the Wednesday before the Breeders' Cup in the Del Mar paddock is out, and it features 12 exciting offerings. Among the offerings is a 50% interest in the dirt mile bound Mufasa, a 25% interest in Grade 1 winner Gold Phoenix, who is being pointed towards the turf, and a 25% interest in Kilwin in the juvenile fillies turf. But there's also something for Bill Finley. Listen to this. A 25% interest in none other than Bookham Dano. We should play the drinking game with this one. Every time we mention Bookham Dano, we should drink. All right. Bill, this is your chance. Randy, what are you going to get Bill for Christmas? Have you bought I mean, 25%?
I think we should pitch in and get Bill a quarter of 1% of Bookham Dano.
Now and you know what? I can't afford it no matter what, but I don't think he's going to sell for that much because he's a gelding. And
people want to go.
I mean, over under $1 million. What do you think, Zoe?
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one because I absolutely have no clue, but I know a lot of people will be interested. And if you are, you can go to find out more at championship.keeneland.com. Bill will be the first one on that. He's writing it down right there.
I'm going to say slightly under since he's a gelding and he's a sprinter.
Yeah. Okay.
8? Are we thinking 8? Over under 8 for a beer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
All right. So can somebody lend me $200,000 to get involved? I'll pay you back. I'll be good for it. You know?
Looking for bloodstock that shapes the world? You can find it here. Foundation mares that will shape the breed. Weanlings with prime potential. Your next moment in the winner's circle. It's all waiting for you here at the World's Marketplace. Keeneland November Breeding Stock Sale, where the future is found. Beginning Tuesday, November 5th.
The fastest horse of the week this week is going to be pretty interesting to a lot of people. And as always, it's brought to you by, this time, one of the new fast sires at WinStar Farm, and that would be Heartland, brand new for 2025 in the Stallion Barn at WinStar. He has a champion's pedigree. Heartland is by Justify, and he's out of the dam of former 2-year-old champion Classic Empire. He was also a TDN Rising Star back in the day when he scored a very impressive debut win at Del Mar, going 5.5 furlongs. That was faster by the speed figures, Heartland's debut win, than any other 2-year-old at Saratoga or Del Mar that summer. He got a 90 Beyer speed figure, which ties him with Just Steel for the fastest of any of the Justified 2-year-olds. He's the second, or at least that year, he's the second fastest Justified 2-year-old ever, behind only Arabian Lion. And Heartland will stand at WinStar for a fee of only $10,000. And as they like to say at WinStar, breeding to Heartland is justifiable. Now for the fastest horse of the week. He ran at Santa Anita. He ran in the first race on Saturday. And he ran the fastest Beyer speed figure of any horse this year in Southern California. His name is Accuracy, and he won a maiden race at 1 1/16 at Santa Anita by 15 lengths with the Beyer speed figure of 1:08. Owned by Mike Rapoli, trained by Mike McCarthy. He went to the lead, opened up, drew off at will. Now, the racetrack was playing very strongly, appeared to be on paper, in favor of inside speed, but how good might Accuracy be with that 1:08 Beyer speed figure? He is, or she rather, I say he, it's a she. It's a 3-year-old filly, okay? And Accuracy is a daughter of Arrogate out of a mare named Bickersons, who once upon a time ran for Kelly Breen in New Jersey and New York, and actually competed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. So there's some pedigree there as well for Accuracy, the 3-year-old filly that is our fastest horse of the week.
welcome in now the guest of the week, trainer Chad Brown. And obviously with the Breeders' Cup coming up, his stable is very busy. Chad, I think I got this right that you have 8 horses pointing for the Breeders' Cup. We can go over the list a little bit later if I missed any. But as a group as a whole, I mean, you've had a lot of really good Breeders' Cups. Could this be your best group you've ever brought into the Breeders' Cup?
Well, it's not the most I brought in there, but overall, top to bottom, there's a chance it could be. Particularly with my dirt horses. I've never brought in this many live dirt horses, I'd say. I've been stronger in different years on the turf, though.
Chad, before we really dive into your horses, I noticed you have a beautiful backdrop there, and there's a big shiny silver trophy right behind you and an Eclipse Award. Which ones are those on display over your right shoulder?
Oh, they're just different. That big Eclipse Award's Late Eli over there, and the shiny one is one of those. It's from Belmont Park, a leading trainer, and different stuff through the years I've been lucky enough to get. So we put it somewhere. This is probably the only chance people get to that.
So Lady Eli, she obviously holds a place near and dear in your heart. Would she be like the number one in your heart going forward?
Yeah, her and Bricks and Mortar, probably. I mean, he was a great horse. I want to talk about trophies. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Duchess Wah, who was a great guy. The Arlington Million Trophy, right there.
Wow.
That's the best trophy that you would ever get as a trainer.
I can attest to that. It is a fabulous trophy.
He was a super, super class guy. Not only did he have one of the cleanest, nicest facilities, he gave you the nicest trophy, and they brought that thing in a Brinks truck with 2 people, and it was a big formal delivery every year if you were lucky enough to get it, and always top class, Mr. Duchess Wah. So that's one of those trophies are my favorite, the Million.
Chad, I was talking to you a couple weeks ago, and you had a criticism, which I think is well worth going over again, that the Filly and Mare turf race is around 3 turns this year at 1 mile and 3/8. And you pointed out that the American grass fillies have no other races like this. So it's kind of like you're sticking them in a situation where they would be unfamiliar to it, maybe an advantage to the Europeans. Does that still bother you a little bit? And did it affect any of the way you place your horses?
Yeah, it does bother me. I've been a very active participant in the Breeders' Cup. Consider them one of my business partners. That's how I think of things with people I do business with in this industry. And they put on a wonderful event. It's evolved tremendously through the years. I have so many compliments, but with that decision, and I've been told it's because of the tight turns at the track. And I understand when you move venues around, the tracks are configured different, and there's certain distances you just can't do. I get it, but I just don't. I just can't understand why you can have championship day for that division, Filly Mares on the turf, and the race is carded at a distance. That there's not one grade 1 the whole year in this country for Filly Mares on the turf. So how can you call it a championship race? And there's got to be some give and take there. And I understand there's European races that are, but there certainly isn't in America, and we're hosting it. So and have it at 3 turns as well. So it doesn't make any sense to me. They had it at 1 mile and 1/8 years ago, and actually Euro won the race. So at Del Mar. So it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm disappointed they didn't even ask me for an opinion on that. Someone who's won the race several times, and I run a lot of horses. So, I'll never understand that decision.
That being said, who are you pointing to that race? I don't
Nobody.
have nobody. Okay.
No, I don't. It's not a race I was going to point towards. And look, when I say that, I'm not like acting pouty about it. I've won the race at 1 mile and 3/16. I've won the race at 1 mile and 1/4, and I've won the race at 1 mile and 3/8 at Churchill. So I've won the race at all the distances. So it's not that we don't some years have a horse that can win it. I just don't. To have no races that lead up to the race that are grade 1s in America, generally there are slower horses that are running in there. Those are the B horses. The top fillies and mares on the turf, as you all know from covering the sport as closely as you do, are between 1 mile and 1 mile and 1/4 for fillies and mares, around 2 turns, all the grade 1s. So, no, unless I have a Euro sort of transplant to me and the connections want to run, I'm not interested in running in the race around 3 turns anymore. I don't campaign my Grade 1 fillies and mares on the turf all season in America in 2-turn races to then experiment in a 3-turn race for championship day. I'm not going to do it.
That being said, you do have several Euro imports, including Zulu Kingdom, who, to me, it looks like he might give you a heart attack every time he runs because he just seems to get there in time. How good do you feel he really is up against some of the best that Europe could be bringing over?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what's coming over. I've always just focused on just getting my horse to the race if I think they fit. The horses came into me in super condition. Little adjustment to training our way and get into our program. But physically, the horse looks great, but he came into me that way. He was a well-trained horse early in his career. We're lucky enough to get him. He's had a couple of close finishes there, but I'm so proud of him at his age. He gets pocketed up and travels behind horses like an older horse and has a good kick. And I even think a slight cut back to a mile will actually benefit him. I just feel like he's got a very strong kick. It might not be that far. And with it at a mile with just a little more pace in front of him, I think we'll see even a better version of him.
Do we know who's going to ride him yet? Because Joel rode him last time and then Pratt rode him the time before. Is that secret information?
No, I'll tell you he's riding the horse. Pratt's going to ride the horse back. He couldn't be there that day because he had obligation out of town that he let me know very much in advance for. So we're going to give him that mount back. And that always works its way out because Joel's been great for us. And oftentimes the ball lands his way too. So I have plenty of stuff down the road for him.
Chad, I was wondering about Sierra Leone. He was so highly regarded earlier in the year, has had some bad luck, but getting him to the winner's circle has not been easy to achieve. You've given him a nice long layoff. How does he look coming into this race? And, his little quirks and eccentricities, they still something that worry you.
Yeah, because he's doing super. I think he's been probably lost in the eye of maybe the media as far as where he stands within the crop because he hasn't really come through this summer from the Derby on. But all those races have been at Saratoga, and at the end of the day, he ran solid races, but he never quite ran the same over that track. And I'm not going to make excuses. All the horses need to run over the same track. I chose to run him there 3 times. I liked him in all 3 races. The horse has been training super. But looking back on it, and all his races, they do seem to be, even though his figures would suggest he's running as fast as ever, visually, the last part of his race, he hasn't been quite a win candidate, near the wire like he was in all of his other starts. So I'm looking forward to get him away from Saratoga. Del Mar can be tricky. Obviously, it's a bit of a shorter stretch. It tends to favor a speedier horse. I do wish it was at Santa Anita this year. I think that might play a little fair. However, he's never run there, and he very well may love the track. And if the pace sets up the right way, I do expect him to run well. And we've moved him down to Belmont, and really the horse has been training terrific. I'm actually taken back on how consistent and durable he is to have breezed this last week as good as he breezed the week before the Derby. No different. And it's hard for a horse to maintain that form in the mornings.
Yeah, he's a dude. Chancer McPatrick, I had the privilege of, I always seem to grab you right at the beginning of the Saratoga meet and be like, hey, Chad, who's your best 2-year-old? Who do you like? Who do you like? And in fairness to you, you're like, I've got this McKinsey colt and I really like him. I've got 3 McKinseys, but there's this one colt and it was him, Chancer McPatrick. Do you feel like you've been justified because you have liked him from day one, and to do what he's done in a short period of time, it looks like sky's the limit for him?
Yeah, well, thank you. Normally, you're telling me by about week 2 or all worse who my best horses are, and you're normally right. So it's nice to be when it works out. When horses run to their early works, eventually when they get to the races, it's nice for a trainer. And through the years, I've had some special horses. After just a work or 2, they look exceptional. Jack Christopher comes to mind. Ways and Means comes to mind. Those horses look terrific right off the bat, which is oftentimes you change your mind the weekend, put more pressure on the 2-year-olds and get them further along in the works. This guy was a star from day one, and he ranks way up there. From the horses that I've had win the Champagne, and then going to the Breeders' Cup, he certainly feels like the best chance we've had. He's another horse, like the last horse we spoke about, Sierra Leone. He's going to Del Mar. He's likely to give himself a lot of work to do because he's not a fast horse early, but he has a really strong plate kick, and he has a mind like a 3-year-old. And I've said it in a few different interviews, but for a trainer training 2-year-olds, when you have a horse that's advanced a whole year in their mind dealing with them, it gives you a huge advantage when you put them in the starting gate. And this guy trains like he's an older horse, which is nothing that we've taught him to do. That's just him.
Does it concern you? Because I watched him intently in his last race. He broke with the field, but he just drops back. He's like, okay, you guys go ahead. I'll give you like a few lengths head start because I know I'm going to run you down. But how much of a concern is that for you? And do you feel you can change it, or you're going to leave him?
Yeah, I mean, so a horse like this. So in his last race, he finally broke clean, like you said. In his first two, I said, well, maybe it's because he's had trouble leaving the gate. Even in the hopeful, a jockey lost both of his stirrups leaving the gate. So those good excuses. But last time he broke right with the field, and they did run him off his feet a little bit. You hope with more racing experience, he just gradually gets a little sharper and increase. He's just, the pace alone will put him closer in his races. So that's what I hope happens. As long as he keeps running well and winning, I'm not looking to change too much or insert myself into the process or over-insert myself into the process too much with horses. If they're doing well, happy with what they're doing, although I would love him to have better position, I'm not going to go ahead and try to be too creative there. So we'll see how he does over there, and as he gets on the trail next year, if he's good and healthy, we'll just see how he does, and if we need to make any adjustments, we'll try it.
Chad, none of your horses will be big prices, but is there someone among your team that you think is going to run better than their odds suggest? Who's going to be your surprise horse on Saturday? Someone I know this guy's getting ready for a big one.
Yeah, that's a great question because they're all likely to take a lot of money.
Right.
I would say domestic product. This horse, I'm taken back on that one, how much he's improved. I always liked the horse. You can see with his form, I haven't always managed him directly. I mean, he sprinted going 6 furlongs. We loved him. And then he didn't run well. And then I ran him a 1.8 miles, which I never stretch him out that far due to other circumstances. He got sick and then a race didn't go. And he just, and I took him to Tampa. I don't use that track a lot for my dirt horses. So but now I have him in a place, at a distance we know that he likes, and he's just training out of his mind. Good. I didn't know he had it in him to train this spectacularly. Arguably, he's the best training horse I have. So can he go 2 turns? I think so. So we did cross center him in the sprint just to take a look. I am planning on running him in the mile. He's not undefeated one turn, the maiden race that was 3/4, but he's certainly better at 1 turn between the Dwyer and the Jerkins. But he has won at 2 turns in the Tampa Derby. So if there's a good pace, it looks to be one of the more competitive races on the card, the Dirt Mile. So we're going into one of the tougher races. And I don't know exactly where he'll fall with the wagering, but it looks to be a good race to wager on, and I quite like the horse.
It looks like it's going to be probably one of the best betting races on the card. Let's talk about the other mile, the Turf Mile, the mile with Carl Spackler going in. This is never an easy race whatsoever, but he's obviously coming into it at the top of his game.
Yeah, he really is. This horse, he's another horse that's gotten just a little bit faster and better than I would have even hoped or expected. I always thought he was going to be a Grade 1 horse at some point. We quite liked the horse before he ever ran, but he's to a level now to be contending for a Breeders' Cup race. That's even a little higher than I thought he'd get to. I'm so proud of the horse. He's just doing super, and he's got a good shot. And in that race, we ended up pre-entering 2 more horses in there. Gina Romantica ended up getting pre-entered in there. We're going to discuss that more with Mr. Brandt, and Chili Flag, which will be her last race with us. She's due to sell at Fazig Tipton a couple days after the Breeders' Cup. So those connections wanted to give it one more race with her before we sell her. So we'll see how they do.
Chad, let's talk about ways and means. And she's obviously a very talented filly. Some trainers, and I think this has grown more so over the last few years, are reluctant to run 3-year-olds against older horses. She's a 3-year-old. She won the test. She's very, very good. Did at any point you ever say, nah, I'm going to wait till next year for the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did think about that in the summer. The owner, Seth Klarman, and I talked about it prior to the test, thinking, she had a couple little minor things after the Oaks. And I said, well, if we can just get her to the test and she does good in there, let's maybe put her away till next year. We did talk about that. And then, I just said, she came out of the race pretty good. Let's just take it week to week. And we really didn't zero in on the Breeders' Cup until maybe a month from the test. I said, let's prep her in a race against older horses and see how she does there. And she's just maintained great form. And I think it's well worth a chance, even against olders. It's going to be a tough race. But I think the other key to her could be the draw. I think this filly's much better in the clear. If she can draw towards the outside and work out a sort of a trip with clean silks and clean face, I think it gives her the best chance.
What are your shipping plans, Chad? I know Asmussen's coming early. How are you getting here and when are you arriving?
Yeah, I feel like trainers have their own sort of feeling or preference or routine that works for them. And I've seen that through the years. For me, I like going in the week of the race. When I worked for Frankel, that's what he always did for big events. I like to do all my main training at my home base, which is usually Belmont. And so I kind of like launch from there, and I don't like doing any local works unless it's Derby week. That's a whole different animal. Outside of that, I never work locally for races. My preference is to ship the week up. So all the final works will be this weekend, and on that Sunday and Monday with a couple different flights, all the horses will get there.
Chad, you've won about everything there is to win, but 2 major things are not on your resume: the Kentucky Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic. Which one do you want to win more at this point?
Well, the Classic actually, that ship has sailed this year. So I guess the Classic, for right now, to be in position with a horse that I really feel when the gates open, I'm watching the race with a chance to win. In these Breeders' Cup races, I try to bring horses that are competitive, can win, and I feel like I have a good group led by him in the richest race on the card. And then after the Breeders' Cup, we'll start looking at those 2-year-old colts to see who's in there to give us some hope for May. But like you said, two races at the very, very top of my list.
Right.
My team, they would love to win either of them.
Chad, you've become a big supporter of Flavien Prat. You've given him mounts on most of your horses now. When did you start to see that he was the rider you wanted to be involved with, and what has he meant to your program?
When I used him a little bit here and there. When he got the mount on Domestic Spending, and I got to work with him more on that horse, so I really had I held in high regard. And Irad actually had a choice between Colonel Liam and him, and that's one race he chose for the horse. So he sort of opened the door for Flavien to start working with. That happens sometimes. And no disrespect to him, because we try to give him as many mounts as we can too. Irad and our team have had an unbelievable, partnership, and that's still going on strong. But when I started working with him with that horse, Bill, that really had me communicating with him more. And the more I did, the more I started to pay attention to what was going on, and the more opportunities he started to get in our barn. And he's made the most of them. He's first and foremost, he's a gentleman. He's so easy to work with. He's so easy with to communicate with my clients in the paddock and such, pre-race and post-race. And he just works at it. He wants to get better. I remember asking him, "You're going to move all the way to the East Coast? I mean, you have your pick of everything on the West Coast." And he said, "I want to win an Eclipse Award, and I don't think I have enough. There's not enough horses to go around out west to compete nationally in the Eclipse Award. This is what I want to do." So we're happy to have partnered with him, at least on some of his success. Not nearly all of it. I mean, he's won so many big races without the help of our barn, but our partnership certainly has contributed to him being in position to get his first Eclipse Award. And I'm very happy for him if that happens for him.
Yeah, he's definitely in line for an Eclipse Award. Have you ever seen him drive a harness horse? He's pretty damn good on one of those as well.
So when he had that charity event over there, I started with Standardbreds way back, and we talked about that a little bit. And I went over there last year to Saratoga to see him. And if this jockey thing doesn't work out, he's got a full book of mounts and horses.
One more question for me. You won your first Breeders' Cup race in 2008 with Maram right here at Santa Anita. You've won, I think, 18 or 19 since. Do you ever just sit down, maybe look at your trophies and just look around and be like, boy, what a ride. What a ride it's been, and you're still so young.
9:23 a.m. No, you know what? Honestly, the game, it moves so fast. There's so many things going on. It's nice to have them. They really only turn out for something like this. Like, bring the trophies out. But no, really, you don't have time. Everything moves so fast. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not. Our team internally does take some time to enjoy the accomplishments. We share in the celebration and the accolades and such, as you've seen through the years with my team. And there's a great appreciation for it. And certainly we have some downtime in the winter. You see my program. You see I don't run a whole lot in the winter, particularly down south. And I'm lucky I can have it that way now. But you're always moving forward. You're always trying to, things, look at this Breeders' Cup. I mean, every year you have the Breeders' Cup and you blink and 2 days later, these horses are retired or sold, or you're saying goodbye to them. It's really hard. It's a roller coaster of emotions. So we just try to stay in the middle, emotionally, and not get too high or too low. But when there's a little quiet time to reflect on what we've done through the years, and we have a lot of the same team members from the first Breeders' Cup to the 18th. It's nice to feel that sense of accomplishment as a team. Yeah.
Chad, how record oriented are you? Like, how much do you pay attention to, the very things that we've been talking about? I mean, there's some of these races out there, like the Philly Mayor Turf races. You won 6 out of the last 7 years, and you're a young guy. I mean, you're going to be around for a long, long time to come. Do you ever envision 25 years from now and that trophy case behind you, you'll need 6 of them?
I don't. The nice thing about what you just said is when I'm getting interviewed after a race and whoever's interviewing me might say, this is the 7th year in a row or 7th out of 8th your team won it. I get more satisfaction or a smile out of me when I hear that when I didn't know it. So okay. No, look at it. Like this Athenia race we won the other day. I was told in the winner circle about that. I said, I didn't know we won that race that many times. I just... Moving forward, it's not that I don't appreciate it. It's just that I think if you just keep looking forward and not dwelling too much on what you accomplished, things sort of rack up, the wins or the accomplishments and such. And we just always just trying to spot the horses, take good care of them, put them in the right races, service our clients. I want to make sure they're happy and just sort of moving along. But yeah, there's a time and a place and to sort of reflect, or sometimes I'll read in an article and I will get some satisfaction there for a moment and say, wow, I didn't, I might even look back and say, I test my memory. You say I'm young. I feel like my memory's going a little bit. So I'll tell myself before I look it up, which horses won. And I don't always get it. So I got to go back.
Very good.
Just one quick one. Sorry, we could keep you here all day. You mentioned being quiet in the winter. With Belmont Park, it's a long way away, opening back up in, say, 26 and them having an all-weather track for the winter. Could you envision yourself leaving some horses in New York year-round?
I do leave horses in New York. It's a great question. I'm happy you asked me that. I do leave horses year-round in New York, but it'll just change what I leave in New York.
Right.
What won't change is... with the synthetic track, and it's been brought up at some meetings with horsemen and such. I think the feeling was initially before I showed up and spoke at one, like, oh, I'm all for the synthetic track because I'm a turf trainer. Not true. The synthetic would be safer in the winter, and it allows NYRA to install a dirt track that's probably better from April to December, but it's freezable. If you have a track that doesn't freeze, a dirt track, it's likely not as good a track in the summer because it's sort of a winterized track you're running on all year. That's my reason for supporting, not that I'm probably going off more than you want me to, but if anyone listening wants to hear my view on it, I'll tell you, the synthetic track provides you a chance to shut the main track down on the dirt and have a better track with a clay sort of base under it that's freezable. The winter racing will change for sure with synthetic. I'll leave a different type of horse in there. I've always left horses in New York all winter and supported it. It'll just be a different type of horse. Will I be leaving high-level turf horses in there because there's a synthetic track and maybe a small stakes program? No, I won't change what I'm doing. My higher-level turf horses won't be racing in New York all winter on synthetic.
Yeah, that was terrific. Best of luck in the Breeders' Cup. And 19 career wins, and I would imagine you might win a couple more next week. Great to talk to you, and thanks so much. Good luck out at Del Mar.
Thank you. I'm happy to have any time. Keep up the good work. Get it.
The TDN Writers Room brought to you by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association, PHBA. Pennsylvania has 4 brand new stallions coming for the 2025 breeding season. They are the Millionaire Graded Stakes winning Zozos. Remember him from the Breeders' Cup Dirt Miles. He is the son of Munnings. You have Imposing, the first son of Gunrunner, standing outside of Kentucky. The dam of Imposing is Untappable, the Breeders' Cup Distaff winner. You have Pennsylvania's own son of Wagilia and winner of over $900,000. His name is Baron. And you have Enticed, multiple graded stakes winning son of Medaglia Doro and multiple grade 1 winner. It's Tricky. Remember, breed to a Pennsylvania star, register the foal, and you'll receive 40% in Breeders' Awards and eligibility for owner bonuses, PA bred stakes, and restricted races. Did I talk you into it yet? For more information, go to pabred.com or call 610-444-1050.
PA Bred, I think we've built a brand at this point.
It's excitement at every step.
Roses for Deborah just set a new track record.
On average, for the past decade, Pennsylvania paid over $28 million a year in Breeders' Awards, restricted races, and owner bonuses. Plus, PA Bred shine on the world's biggest stage. Just 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup winners. Learn more at pabred.com.
In the heart of horse country, where the passion for the horse runs deep, one name stands out: Macaulay's. Since 1938, Macaulay's Feed has been the trusted name in providing exceptional equine nutrition. Macaulay's commitment goes beyond the bag. Our dedicated team is with you from day one. Experience the legacy of Macaulay's and give your horse the nutrition they deserve. Macaulay's, the feed of champions.
Leads us into this week's edition of First Things First. Now, this week, I was kind of thinking, well, who am I going to get? And he popped up on my screen as a work, and it was Eagles Flight. Who, I hear you say? Bill's like, who the hell's Eagles Flight? Well, of course, he's the half-brother to Flightline, and I caught up with trainer John Sadler just to find out, where's he been, John?
Look at this, John and Doodle. John, a quick little chat about Eagles Flight. How's he doing? Where's he been? Where's he going?
He's doing great. He had a beautiful work last week, and he's training towards the start of Santa Anita. Haven't picked a race yet, but he's coming back really strong.
Do we know, did he just need time between his starts? What was going on with him?
Yeah, a little issue, so we had to give him a break, but he's doing great now.
What does he look like now? Is he filled out, grown up?
He looks really well. He's a good-looking horse. You know, he looks like himself, you know, so, whoops, there goes the dog.
There goes the dog. The dog says it's time to go. Are there any similarities yet between him and Flightline?
Too early to say that. They're different horses, but they're both nice horses.
Looks like you're taking your time with him. When could we hopefully see him reappear? And is he going to be on the same Flightline schedule?
Well, he's going to, you know, hopefully be ready for the Malibu.
All right, perfect. I'm going to go see him. Thanks, John.
Yep.
Thanks so much to trainer John Sadler, and we'll continue to progress the half-brother to flight line. That is Eagles Flight. Do want to remind you that we will carry on at Santa Anita on Friday with a double carryover going into the Pick 6. So get your handicapping going. We'll, of course, have racing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Saturday, the Pumpkin Patch Fall Festival continues. We'll also have Smorgasbord Pizza Party. That's for you, Randy. And then everybody's favorite on Sunday, Pinktober, as we invite Pink's hot dogs in to basically raise money for the American Cancer Society. So do join us at Santa Anita all weekend long.
The most talked about race so far at the Keeneland meet, I don't think has been the Breeders' Futurity or the Spinster or something like that. It was a 20 maiden claimer. And the reason why is jockey Luan. Is it Mikado or Machado? Either you guys have an opinion on that? I'm going to call him Mikado, Luan Mikado, who rides next, by the way. So we're going to get into that as well. He misjudged the finish line at Keeneland. He stood up the first finish line, not realizing that the race actually ended at the second and main finish line. Zoe, he got us this 3-day suspension, $2,500 fine. I'm fine with that. I mean, he obviously made a mistake. You're not going to go nail the guy for giving him a 6-month suspension or something like that. But Zoe, have you ever encountered a situation like that? Ridden in a track with 2 finish lines?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
I have. And it happens. I mean, it really does. And I know I feel bad for the people that gambled on the race. I know Twitter blew up over it, people having pick 5s to him and all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're gambling on horse racing, you're worried about 2 things: the horse and human error both comes into it. Now, say he'd have run into a roadblock at the half-mile pole and got beat. He's going to get beat anyway. So he got beat by misjudging the finish line. If you're gambling on horse racing, you have to factor in that there's human error in there as well, whichever way it turns out to be. So I'm tired of hearing about it. I feel bad for the guy. But boy, oh boy, did he get some redemption this weekend with a couple of his rides that he put on that we'll talk about. So yes, it sucks. It does happen. I don't know there's a way around it. The only way around it is to get rid of the 2 finish lines. But how are you going to do that with track configurations? You can't do it.
I wonder about that, though. Keeneland can run. So they run the 1.16 race, finishing up at the first finish line. I don't see the great necessity of that, to be honest with you. Randy?
Well, they run a mile. The reason that they run, so Keeneland is 1.16 in circumference. And the reason they start and finish at the 16th pole is to give jockeys a safer run into the first turn. Otherwise, because the finish line is really far down the home stretch. So there would be literally no distance to speak of between the starting gate and the first turn, unless you pulled the starting gate way, way, way back, like they do at some tracks, and had these, 200-foot run up. And if you're going to do that, you might as well have 2 finish lines. Well, what confused Machado so much is that at 1.16, you have the alternate finish line at the 16th pole, 2-turn race. But this was 1.125, also a 2-turn race, except the 1.125 races go to the regular finish line. And his horse had like a 5 or 6 length lead in mid-stretch. He crosses the 16th pole. He thinks he had the race run. Social media absolutely destroyed this young man. Ridiculous, some of the things that were said on social media. It was just an accident. If you bet on football and the officials blow a call, how many times have we seen that happen? That's not even human error involving the players. That greatly impacts a lot of the football games, college and pro. You just have to kind of take your lumps when that happens. There are some people who were even talking like conspiracy, like the young guy, like the guy threw the race on purpose. Okay. Now, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but if Luan Machado wanted not to win with that particular horse, do you think he would have opened up 6 lengths in mid-stretch? I mean, give me a break here. The kid just made a mistake. His 3-day suspension is, I think, the 27th, the 30th, and the 31st, because entries had already been taken for this past weekend's races. And to his credit, after that, he bounces back with 2 graded stakes wins at Keeneland on the weekend after that Wednesday debacle. Good for him.
Now, another Luan Mikado's best mount is next. a horse that we've been talking a lot about. And we've been going back and forth on this. I know Randy and Zoe are in one camp and I'm in the other. But Doug Cowan's trainer has now said this horse will run in the Breeders' Cup, the marathon specialist. He hasn't decided yet whether he should go in the turf at 1.5 miles. It'd be a better distance for the horse, or on the dirt in the classic at 1.25 miles, which would be a better surface, but not necessarily a better distance. I've been advocating this all along. I still believe it. I'm glad they're doing this. It's going to add a real nice element to the Breeders' Cup. And what do they have to lose?
So I have a question for you two. The owner and Cowans are leaning toward the classic, by the way, over the turf, although they still haven't made a final decision. I want to give you 3 Breeders' Cup classic horses, and I want you to rank them in your order of preference in terms of their chances to win and whether they deserve to be in the classic field or not. Okay. Derma Sotogake, Pyrenees, and Next.
Okay. Now, what's the question then? I'm sorry, Randy.
Rank those 3 in order that you think they deserve to be in the classic.
Derma 1, Next 2, and the other guy 3.
Pyrenees 3. Would you say the same thing, Zoe?
I mean, I don't think Next should run in the Breeders' Cup, period. That's just my thought. But if you're looking for horses in the rankings, I would put Next number 1.
Okay.
Derma Sotogake has got a duck egg this year. I mean,
he does.
Like, is he going to get in?
He might not. See, the reason I'm asking this question, this is what in all likelihood, what the Breeders' Cup Selection Committee is going to be faced with. One of those 3 horses is going to wind up on the also eligibles. Kenny McPeak is going to enter Rattle and Roll. It already has pre-entered him apparently, and he's a non-issue. He's not going to make it into the field. He would be ranked 16th of the 16 horses that expected to be pre-entered. So one other one is going to be ranked number 15 and be on the outside looking in. Tappet Trice is probably going to be selected since he just won the Woodward, right? So those 3, I think, are the ones that the committee is going to have to decide between. One of them is going to be the odd horse out, so to speak. I think it's probably going to be Pyrenees, but it could be Derma Sotogake, or it could even be Next.
I mean, you got to go by the form, really. It can't come from the heart. If you're looking at the form, Next is 4 for 4. He's got a grade 2 and a grade 3 this year. Derma Sotogake has a big 0 this year. Pyrenees has a grade 3. Tappet Trice, obviously a grade 2 and a grade 3. And Rattle and Roll, he's not getting in. So the one horse getting in, if you're just going by the numbers and not going by someone thinking, Next is getting in.
Randy, and I'm not entirely sure how this works. They don't have a point system. So like if the 16th horse with the 16th fewest points isn't going to get into the race.
Here's the way it works. For the Breeders' Cup Classic, the maximum number of horses that can run is 14. So they take half of that number. So 7 horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic will be chosen by the committee. And the other 7 will be either a combination of win and you're in Breeders' Cup Classic victories or points.
Okay.
In this situation, I think we have 4 win and you're in Breeders' Cup Classic horses that are going to make it into the Classic field, including Mixto, who won the Pacific Classic, who might be near the bottom of the rankings otherwise. And then point-wise, you'll have Fierceness and you'll have Sierra Leone, right? And I think there's one other one on the list there that's for sure going to, Highland Falls is going to get in on points if he didn't get in Breeders' Cup. Anyway, that's how you do it. 7 and 7.
Isn't it cool though to have an oversubscribed field for once?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah. For the Classic. Yeah. I mean, you don't see that all that often for the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's cool. The TDN Writers Room, also brought to you by Kentucky Breds, who have been on a world tour in 2024. City of Troy was the European 2-year-old male champion last year. Opera Singer was the European 2-year-old filly champion of last year. And both now have won Group 1 races again this season at age 3. City of Troy's won 3 Group 1s to make him one of the favorites in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Opera Singer won the Grade 1 Nassau Stakes at Goodwood. In all, Kentucky-bred 2-year-olds have won 3 of 8 group races for juveniles at Royal Ascot the last 2 years. Shareholder won the Norfolk this year. Valiant Force won the Norfolk last year. Those are both Group 2s, and Crimson Advocate won the Group 1 Queen Mary. In addition, you've got Ramatuelle, who will be expected to run in the Breeders' Cup Mile after winning a Group 1 in the 4A in France. A lot of success by Kentucky breds across the pond, and it might continue here at the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. Kentucky breds, breed them, race them, we all win.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
Be a smarter, better with XB TV. The best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart with XB TV.
TDN Writers Room is brought to you by XB TV, and this week's XB TV Work of the Week is Tenma, a candidate for the $2 million Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Now, Tenma worked 5 furlongs out of the gate. Her company with her is a filly named Cassaloo, who's going to run in the Anokia Stakes on Friday. She will actually work 6 furlongs here, but Tenma works a very nice 5/8 in 101, which is to the 8th pole. Tenma won the Grade 1 Del Mar Debutante, going 7 furlongs, and then was 3rd in the Grade 2 Oakleaf, making her 2-turn debut on October the 5th at Santa Anita. Tenma was an $850,000 2-year-old purchased by Susan and Charlie Chu, and she is trained by Hall of Famer Bob Baffert.
Well, if you're playing a drinking game with how many times you say Dano, you're going to get awful drunk from this segment. And, I do this because, he's not the greatest horse in the world. I understand that. But it's so cool to me as a New Jersey person to see a New Jersey bred do so well. I loved him in the Perryville. He got kind of a bad trip. He got kind of bunched down on the inside a little bit. But at the end of the day, I don't think he had much of an excuse. He got a running lane. And then the 14 horse draws in off the also eligible list and pays $1 zillion to beat him. So I am proud of my friend Bookham Dano. I'm trying to find out what they're going to do with him next. I have not heard back from the connections, but they are still looking to get him to Saudi Arabia. And before that, they're talking about running in the Saudi Cup, $20 million for a horse that's never gone beyond 7 furlongs. Well, they think he can do it.
It's a one turn.
It's a one turn. That's what he said. Yeah, he said if it was 2 turns, he would never do it. Yeah.
So who was the winner of the Perryville? Brunacci, 28-1. Luan.
Brunacini.
That was a good ride by Machado. A really good ride.
How about that?
28.
And then the next day in the Raven Run, it was won by Emery. And what's interesting there is that she was second behind Ways and Means in the test in her last start. So the fact now Ways and Means looks all that much better since the filly that she beat pretty handily came back and won a big stake at Keeneland over the weekend. So
as if Ways and Means needs to look that much better, right? Than she already looks. Let's get back to Bookham Dano for a second. Was your favorite TV show growing up Hawaii 5-0 by any chance?
I really liked the show. I don't know if it's my favorite show, but yeah, it is a great show.
Okay. All right. Now, look, I thought Bookham Dano had plenty of enough of an excuse in there. First of all, he was tightened up at the top of the lane and had Irad had to wait for just a second. They only got beat a neck. But I think the big thing is it was a stakes race, but for all intents and purposes, it was a handicap race because Bookham Dano carried 123 pounds, having won a Grade 1 stakes this year, and spotted 5 pounds to Brunacini and to Knightsbridge, who dead heated for third with Epic Ride. So a neck, 5 pounds. It's, plenty of reason to think that Bookham Dano was the best horse in the race. But with his running style, Bill, you're just going to have to get accustomed to taking some tough beats every now and then.
That's the problem with him.
200,000. That's all you're going to need, Bill. 200,000. Get that 25% share in Bookham Dano.
All right, when we get off the air, I'll give you my Zelle account number, and you can All right. So, again, not a whole lot going on this weekend. Some decent races at Keeneland. Belmont at the Big A has a pretty good lineup of races as well. This is kind of the prep for the Cigar Mile Day. For the most part. And the Mother Goose is still around, grade 2, 250,000. Gunsong is going to be the favorite. And again, you can answer, this horse will help you answer some Breeders' Cup questions. She lost by a mere neck to Torpedo Anna in the Cotillion. If she runs her eyeballs out, that's going to make Torpedo Anna look much better. If she doesn't do much here, I think you might want to look back at Torpedo Anna Cotillion and say it was not one of her best starts. But so Gunsong for trainer Mark Hennig and John Velasquez, probably the ones to beat in there, but we shall see.
Gunsong and Tarifa. Yeah.
She's good. Watch out for Chad's horse. I stupidly forgot to ask Chad about headline numbers, but he's got 2 in there. What about all the progeny and Gunrunner in this race? There's 3 and also the half sister to Gunrunner, and that's Pretty Anna, who Chad Brown trains. It's basically the Gunrunner handicap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 3 cheers to Mark Hennig for picking the right spot for this filly, right? Because they were toying with the idea of running her against Idiomatic and against Torpedo Anna in the distaff. She was on the short list of horses for a while for the distaff while they were trying to decide back and forth. And ultimately, they opted into a spot where she's got a solid, really good chance to win. She'll be the favorite, which she would have been 20-1 in the distaff.
Right. Well, we can't let you go without getting a little bit more of some insights into the Breeders' Cup. And of course, with the pre-entries aren't out yet, we can't really dive into things. Though, Randy, you said how many are going to enter the Classic?
Right now, it looks like 16 are going to go in the pre-entry stage of it. And that's pretty solid. I mean, they're all saying that they're going to pre-enter. So, yeah.
So just a little Go ahead, Randy.
Let me just follow up on what we said a little bit earlier, just to clarify for everybody how the selection works for the Breeders' Cup. The 4 horses that won Breeders' Cup Challenge races are Arthur's Ride, City of Troy, who won one in the UK, Highland Falls, and Mixto in the Pacific Classic. That's 4. So you have 3 more that are going to get in on points. Sierra Leone had 34 points. Fierceness, 27 points. And Skippy Longstocking is 7th on that list with 24 points. So Skippy would automatically get in the Classic if they choose to run him in the Classic as opposed to the Dirt Mile. Last year, Saffie Joseph opted to run in the Dirt Mile because he said it gave him a much better chance to win. We'll see what happens with Skippy Longstocking there. Then you've got Newgate, who probably is going to get in. He's a grade 1 winner this year in the Santa Anita Handicap. Selection committee will take him. Tappet Trice, we talked about. He'll probably get in on his Woodward win. And then we have the horses that I was telling you about that are going to be, you've got Ushba Tesoro, who's going to get in. Forever Young is going to get in. He's going to be chosen. Senor Buscador will be chosen based on the Saudi Cup. So that leaves Dermasotogake, Pyrenees, and Next. And one of those
they got to take Next just because of the story, and it makes a more compelling Breeders' Cup. Take them or else. I'm not happy to hear that. Then maybe if he does, is the turf oversubscribed? Then he can just go run on the grass.
The turf is probably not going to be oversubscribed. It's going to be right up to the 14 horse limit, but right now it's looking like it will not be oversubscribed.
All right. So between the 3 of us, we've seen an awful lot of Breeders' Cups, either live or on television. Let's just do some fun little exercise to keep the Breeders' Cup as an important topic today. What is your favorite Breeders' Cup race of all time, Randy?
I've been to every Breeders' Cup except the inaugural in 1984 and the 1995 Breeders' Cup when I was in management at Oaklawn Park. All the other 38 previous Breeders' Cups I've actually seen in person, and it is damn tough to pick a race. There's been so many good races and good stories, right? I always talk about Arazi as being the single best move I've ever seen. To this day, the most electrifying move I've ever seen in any race, any race, any day, any track in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But I think I would pick, and some people are going to call me a sourpuss for this, I would probably pick the 2011 Breeders' Cup Classic with Blame edging Zenyatta in a photo finish. Now, I know a lot of people are heartbroken that Zenyatta didn't win. The reason why I picked that race, that was the best race Zenyatta ever ran. The best race of her life in the only race she didn't win. She was running on dirt as opposed to synthetic, right? She had been running on synthetic in Southern California in a lot of super slow-paced races, and she was trailing the field in those. You knew she was going to be 20 lengths back in the first part of the race, and lo and behold, she was. I thought, given all that on dirt, she had no chance to run down Blame. She was a heavy favorite, and yet here she comes, just storming down the lane and almost got there in what I thought was the best race she ever ran.
Zoe?
Well, I matched Randy and go the year before when she won. And obviously I'm obviously not as old as you two, hate to say it, so I haven't seen quite as many. My first one I did actually witness was in 2000 when it was at Arlington Park. I took off the last race of the day because I had friends in town, and we had box, and it was amazing. I think Mike Smith won 4 races. But the one I really remember had to be Zenyatta. It was in the HRTV heyday at Santa Anita, so we'd covered it all week. And I don't know, I just can't remember why I found myself in the top of the grandstand, above the turf club. I was right at the top of the grandstand, and I will never forget her coming motoring down the stretch, and we all thought it was hopeless. And I can still to this day feel the roar of the crowd. And it was almost like they were taking the roof off at Santa Anita when she won. It was probably the most amazing race I've ever seen in my life. You had to be there and you had to be in the grandstand. It was amazing.
Well, being the New York homer that I am and have been accused of many times, I got to go with one of the greatest moments in the stable of Shug McGahee and the Phipps family. 1988 Breeders' Cup Distaff, personal ensign, her undefeated career on the line, coming in against winning colors for Wayne Lucas. At the 16th pole, she had no chance to win. None. And there's the great winning streak is going to go down the drain, and it's going to be a sad occasion. Sure, it's fine at winning colors. One, she's a nice horse, but personal ensign is extra, extra special. Somehow she just found a gear and sheer class, determination, got up in time. And that I don't think I'll ever see a Breeders' Cup race that was more exciting than that. And I know Randy doesn't necessarily agree.
Oh, I mean, she's a fantastic Hall of Fame horse. There's so many races to pick from. The Breeders' Cup Turf of 4 or 5 years ago, was it Enable and Magical? Was that the horse that Enable was hooked up with, which was a fantastic race? Okay, you've got
the Songbird you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Arrowgate's win in the Classic against California Chrome. Those two horses were just absolutely laying it down and running. And you could pick a lot of others, too, that were just fantastic races. So we've been really fortunate to see a lot of fantastic efforts at the Breeders' Cup.
All right, so I'll go first on this question. What are you most looking forward to this year's Breeders' Cup? Going first, because I think I'm going to steal the same answer that both you guys came up with. But the City of Troy. The Classic. He's such a good horse. It's such a mystery. He could win by 7-8 lengths, or he could, finish next to last. You don't really know, but I trust Aidan O'Brien. I mean, he would not be putting this horse in the race if he was not very certain that he would handle the dirt. So if he handles the dirt as good as he is, I think he probably will win. But it's not going to be easy, but I can't wait to see this horse and see what he can do. Zoe?
Yeah, I'm right with you. That and the Juvenile as well, because we always look forward to the Juvenile, because as soon as that's run, we'll be talking about the Derby next year. So those two, I actually can't wait to physically see City of Troy in person, Because I know when he first started off this year, people were just saying how small he was. That was the whole big thing. Oh, he's not very big. He's a little horse. And then you had Aidan O'Brien invite the cameras in. He took the tack off and was like measuring him with his nose and saying he's 16'1", he's this and that. So I want to see him in person, up close and personal.
Look, Aidan O'Brien has run 17 horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic. All but about 5 of them were bred strictly for turf and had zero chance to win. And yet he ran them anyway because Coolmore are, the ultimate sportsman, and they desperately want to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, and they keep trying and they keep trying and they keep trying. And this is going to be fascinating on so many different fronts because you've got here, they're so excited about it because number one, they're trying to find a stallion to replace Galileo. And here you have City of Troy, who's by Justify, an American Triple Crown winner, out of a Galileo mare who was a very, very good racehorse herself. This horse could be just the next major stallion. Coolmore salivating at the thought that he could win the Breeders' Cup Classic to go along with what he's already done winning the Epsom Derby, right? But is he going to take after Justify, or is he going to take after the damn side, Galileo? Galileos are atrocious on the dirt, horrible on the dirt. And it's physically, I think we've talked about this, he looks more like Galileo than he looks like Justify. I don't know how much that matters, right? And there's also this. Even if City of Troy handles the dirt, even if he takes to the dirt, even if he handles the kickback, that doesn't necessarily mean he can outrun Fierceness and Sierra Leone and Forever Young. Those are 3 really, really good 3-year-olds. So that just adds further. If he wins by 8 lengths, like you pointed out, I'll bow to City of Troy as flight line material because I think this is a good race.
Today? Who's your pick today, Randy?
Before the post position draw, which I think will be important, it would be Fierceness.
Okay.
If he's stuck down on the inside, right? Post 1, 2, 3, I would have to give it a serious reconsideration. Maybe Forever Young in that scenario. And you like City of Troy right now?
I guess I'm kind of on the fence. I want to see him. I'm not making any. I have to see him. I'd like to touch him. Do you think he'll let me touch him?
Who do you like, Bill?
It's too early. I'll know when I open up the past performances. But, like I said, as a fan, though, I would like to see City of Troy win, but I'm not sure who I'm going to pick in there yet. It's going to be a hell of a good horse race, though. That's for sure.
This week's Breeders' Cup Connections is a special one and a tearjerker. Make sure you watch this, Randy and Bill. Katie Petruniak talks to Jeremy Fennell about his path to addiction and back with the help of Stable Recovery and trainer Will Walden. Fennell is the rider of Minaret Station, who is heading to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf at Del Mar November the 1st. You surely won't want to miss this one.
Coming from South Dakota to Kentucky, it's a big step of class of horses and people, and that's what I love about where I'm at. Minaret Station came to our barn. He was just, he's always been a character, when he first got there. And I started galloping him and stuff, and man, he's progressed so much. So we have a really strong connection with each other. And galloping-wise, he's an unbelievable type of horse that I've ever been on.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
The TDN Writers Room, brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. And West Point wraps up the Keeneland Fall Meet with Le Ray in the Valley View Stakes on Friday. That's a grade 2. And then Depiction in the Bryan Station Stakes on closing day Saturday. That's another grade 2. Lorraine's that French import that we talked about a while back when she won the Winter Memories at Aqueduct. That was her U.S. debut. It was her 3rd win in a row overall. And now Lorraine will go for 4 in a row on Friday. Meanwhile, Vava is finishing up her preparations for the Filly and Mare Sprint out of Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup for West Point. And the co-owners, Vava, will fly to Del Mar Sunday with the rest of the Breeders' Cup hopefuls trained by Cherie DeVoe. To learn more about West Point Thoroughbreds, you can log on to westpointtb as in thoroughbred.com.
That is a wrap on this week's show. I want to thank my partners, Randy Moss and Zoe Cadman, our guest of the week, Chad Brown, and our editors and producers, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Aaliyah LaRocca. Hope you had some fun listening to us today. Catch up with you next week.